So with all these different things on the go, and we talked about before, let's just go into some of the sort of hinted at it before, Jim, the partnership aspect of these things. It's like if a manager has to be across everything, for example, like we said before, in order for an artist to develop properly. But surely a manager can't physically have enough hours in the day to do everything. How important is it that managers build a team around them? I mean, do you use a sync agent?
We do, yeah.
So how
we don't, but we do.
Jim, can you talk through some of the elements of what you see as, you know, a good team around an artist?
Yeah, I mean, an agent, a live agent, yeah. I think it's not fundamental. And I've worked with some managers who book their own gigs, which I think for a band starting out is actually better than going to an agent, because, well, I've got a lot of young bands who are signed to very big agents, and they just don't do anything. You know, the person I want is a guy who's going to book a gig in Solihull, you know, for 100 people, and those 100 people will turn into 200 people the next time they go back. So that could be the manager, or it could be a young, feisty new agent who's looking for something to get his teeth stuck into. The sync side is, you can do that very simply, you know, and you can do very easy deals where they'll literally just take 10% and they'll put it on a mixtape, and they've got a bunch of contacts and they'll plug it in. Yeah, I know a couple of bands who exist solely off that. They don't even bother touring. They just write some songs, send it to the sync person, and occasionally it'll get synced and they'll make 10, 15 grand. Outside of that, I mean, a lawyer I don't think is that crucial until someone puts a legal document in front of you, and it was probably the last time you spoke to him, wasn't it, when you signed that deal? You know, it's different for Cerne because you're doing massive gigs, and that there's a lot more complications.
Also, just to add something, you just said agents, when they do become very useful is when your band's getting somewhere and you want to get on festivals.
Yeah.
Your little mate or your friend isn't going to be able to go to Dennis Desmond and get you on a good spot. You know, it's pretty much all locked down by.
But there's a whole sort of underbelly of festivals now. You know, I'm sure. Is there a local festival?
Yeah, I produce it.
Yeah, ask him. It's, you know, you can get into some of those. My next door neighbour's got a band. They haven't got a record deal. They haven't even made a demo, but they played 3 or 4 festivals just by getting on the phone and sort of blagging it. I think it's about the blag when you're sort of starting off. You just got to be confident in what you are and who you're working with. You know, and putting. I don't believe in putting a massive team around it. It's, if you're not starting to do those kind of things yourself, you're probably not doing much of a job.
Someone said to me the other week, it's almost just like, you know, when do I need such and such? When do I need such and such? So one of them was like, when do I need some PR? When you've got a release, maybe.
Yeah.
You know, do I need a plugger? Yeah, well, obviously when you've got a release. In the early days, you don't have to build all those people around you. And did you find that you were working with people around you before, you know, you sort of agreed your management deal? Did you?
Yeah.
Because you all, I mean, I remember coming across the band quite early doors, you know what I mean? In fact, to be honest, Paul, the first time we put them on as Generated, Archie was singing, which was very strange. But, you know, but everyone did different things within the band, you know.
Yeah, I think, I was saying before, Luke's is kind of the business head in our band, and he moved down to London because he had a job to do, and as a result he could go and meet managers and then convey his feelings about them on the phone to us up in Newcastle. And again, getting gigs in London, we didn't want to play too many times because just another band who plays on the circuit. And again, his local knowledge was good, and putting physical copies of our single into shops and stuff like that. So we've always had him, thankfully, because I'm not very good at that sort of thing. But you know, what I feel we did is just when something came up, we would deal with it. You know, if as you were saying, if you don't need something, then don't have it. You know, don't chase something that's going to be useful further down the line. You know, have the foresight to think that we might need it at some point. But I think I knew a girl who worked for Hero Publishing. I think it's that XL's publishing arm. And I said to her, we're thinking of putting our own record out, and passed the CD on to her, and then she passed the CD on to Mick Shiner, who worked with The Streets and was Mike Skinner's publisher, and we
Signed Plan B.
Yeah, we had a good meeting with him, and again, we really responded to him, and he's a very infectious character, and although we didn't end up working with him, we got a lot of good advice off him, and again, it was like, well, you don't really need that now. So I think, we didn't just do it by ourselves. We tried to learn from people and ask people who we knew questions. This was all once the material was pretty much in place, because again, other people in the band might have had different ideas and more career minded, whereas I was just doing it for a bit of a laugh, to try and make my life slightly more interesting, and that was the bottom line, and so I would probably delegate a lot of stuff towards other people in the band, but I could draw, so I drew the inlay to our first single, and I wrote the first little press release because I like to write, and we all had little things to do in the band.
You used to type the inlay cards as well, even
yeah.
The second and third.
It's a shame that goes once bands become successful, don't they, for the most part, because you get too busy doing promo and travelling. And
it's hard to kind of convey how much you are involved at a certain point as well, like 3 albums down the line, do people think we care about the artwork? Do people realise that I'm still typing out the insides and all of the thank you lists and making sure that the spacing's right, and do people know there's a little quote on the inside of the LPs? You kind of put your faith in people and say that the music aficionados and people who really like the band and are really into it will, hopefully those things will make the band more special. But I'm digressing away from the point. But I think at the start, we had lots of ideas and we would put them into practice. It's like, get on the phone to so and so today and follow this up. And we had Roger Morton's wife actually, who had a press.
Yeah.
Ritu Morton. She had a press agency, and she got in touch with us first before her husband, and just really liked the band. I think I met you actually round the corner from the Barfly.
Yeah.
We were playing down there, and she'd sort of...
she was the first person who started talking about the band. Often, bands don't decide who's going to come in. Every now and again, the biggest press officer in the UK came across the Guillemots very early on, and she's, what's BC, £5,000 a month press officer.
Something crazy about that.
She did it for nothing because she loved them. It does happen, and as a band, you might decide not to go with that person, but that might sort of push you into doing something, and there's lots of happy accidents, aren't there?
But is that important though? That's the thing, isn't it? As you say, happy accidents. It's almost as if there's been a dwindling of traditional A&R people within record companies. But there seems to be more A&R going on. I did a session with 8 pretty new businesses a couple of years ago. I've been a couple of years ago anyway, and it was just like, look, there's the A&R of Sony, there's the names there, and here's Coda, here's all the agents, and there's like Coda agency, and there's about 30 agents there or something. There's probably not that many, but a lot of these agents are looking for new bands to break, aren't they? Even in the last 18 months, there's probably about another 3 or 4 to 13, isn't there?
Well, there's a new world though, isn't there, which is nostalgia, because if you think when you were starting out, or friends starting out, it was all about new bands, pretty much, and then you had your big successful bands, but now, the last few years, you've got bands, because there's less and less being developed, you've got more bands reforming, and bands that never sold any records in the day are coming back, and you look at festival lineups, loads of it is, I'm sure lots of it is Blondie or Gang of Four, or there's hundreds of bands coming back because they've got
those older ones aren't coming through like you said before?
Absolutely.